Hey, we're about to start the show, and you know the drill. If you've been here before and you have something important to share, please add a capital letter Q to your comment. And if you are watching live for the first time, please let us know by writing the word new, and we'll give you a nice little welcome. Enjoy the broadcast. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Coffee and Headlines, our morning get-together where we connect with each other. We connect with our city, our state, our country. We connect with what's going on out there and what's going on in our lives, hopefully finding ways to appreciate better what Puerto Vallarta is all about as a community of English-speaking locals. I'm fumbling because there are days in which I just land gracefully and there's time to do everything. But this morning was one of those mornings in which we're flying by the seam of our pants, but all is well. It is Friday, May 10th, which means it's Mother's Day in Mexico, and we will have a little explainer video to share about the history of Mother's Day in Mexico. And then tomorrow, we will continue our Mother's Day celebration by featuring, well, let's just say that mothers have the short end of the stick in Mexico when it comes to foul expressions. And tomorrow we're going to just unpack a shit ton of mother-related expressions that you don't want to repeat at the dinner table, but that you might be curious to know something about. But first, let us head over to our weather. No, not our weather. What am I talking about? Let us find the news, which I've prepared for you today. We have a lot of news about construction projects, and we start with this one. This year's rain season is not here yet, but this is not stopping Colonia Benito Juárez residents from getting a little antsy about the work being done along the Río Cuale. You may recall that when the river went overboard at this point 2 years ago, the sidewalks and street were severely damaged, and it is taking a while for the local government to complete the improvements that were started there just a couple of months ago. It took that long for them to get them started, and now we can only hope that the reinforcement being built at this point, along with the new sidewalks, will be completed before the rain, whoa, where did that come from? Before the rain brings the strong currents back to the river. And speaking of improvements, those along the Malecón, which were put on pause, they were put on pause right before Semana Santa, seem to have been resumed, and authorities have announced that they will be completed in November. And we keep our fingers crossed about that deadline because the upcoming rain season could always introduce unexpected delays, which would mean that the incoming administration would be then in charge of prioritizing the project according to their own plans. And this has been going on for a while, or we have been expecting it for a while. And the third improvement related bit of news that I have to share with you is this other project that is somewhat in the dark, despite the fact that the construction company responsible for the completion of the new Guadalajara highway as it reaches Puerto Vallarta has been in touch with City Hall. They have not been forthcoming with specific information or details about the project. This information or this knowledge comes to us according to Adriana Guzman, who directs the city's urban development and environmental department. I have read elsewhere in other bits of news that residents from several colonias that are located right along where the new highway has been established are also wondering how the project will affect them. And I suppose that this is just a matter of waiting, but one has to wonder how long. Now, if you have been curious about how, where, and when the new highway is going to connect with roads that we know, and of course we're talking about this itty-bitty final stretch that goes from Bucerias to the airport, I discovered a few days ago a new YouTube channel, which is called Explore from the Sky, and I'm going to show it to you in a second. I don't want to show you the actual videos because, hey, they're trying to get viewers as much as I am. But this particular Facebook page, let me put it on the screen. Beep, 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 beep. What they feature is a number of drone videos, short drone videos, many of them having to do with the construction of the new highway that show us how things are going and where things are going. I have been enjoying their uploads quite a bit. And if you're curious about how the project is shaping up, you may want to take a look at this YouTube page, which I will, of course, include in the show notes. Again, this seems to be a locally based project, although I don't know who the people behind it are. But they're putting together some really nice looking drone footage. And here is something that comes from national news. For 3 days in a row, several states in the country have experienced power outages due to unexpected overload in Mexico's electrical grid. President López Obrador has diminished the issue in his morning press conferences, blaming the situation on the current heat wave affecting parts of the country. But, you know, if this is only May and the heat wave hasn't really started, one has to wonder, or not so much the heat wave, because there's a current heat wave affecting parts of the country. But if the summer temperatures are not even here yet, and the electrical grid is showing signs of vulnerability, one has to wonder how we are going to fare this coming summer. We can only hope that that the government is paying attention to this. And of course, we're fortunate that the state of Jalisco, our state, has not been affected by these power outages, or at least not yet. Now, let's take a quick look at the weather just to see what we can expect for today. And I forgot to say, today is Friday. Yes. Snarky. Snarky Weatherman asks, are you going to play with your meat stick? Or are you going to check your weather report? Why couldn't we do both things? I say now it is 28 degrees. Humidity is at 62%. Our weather forecast for today says that we're going to enjoy clear skies in the morning. We're partly cloudy skies in the afternoon, a high of 30 and a low of 20. And then tomorrow will be a humid day with clear skies throughout the day, a high of 29 and a low of 20. And finally, Sunday will be another humid day with mostly clear skies throughout the day, a high of 30 and a low of 21. And of course, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, today is Mother's Day in Mexico. And what I thought, let me just set this up. What I thought I would do today is do the snarky, foul Mexican expressions that have to do with mothers, or that use the word mother. and there are many, and there are nasty, but I put my portable inflatable digital assistant, I put PETA to good use this morning, and I said, "Hey, PETA, what is the history of Mother's Day in Mexico? When did we start celebrating it?" And I didn't realize the history is as fascinating as it is. Take a look at this.
Have you ever wondered how the celebration of Mother's Day in Mexico came about? In 1922, the concept of Mother's Day, originating from the U.S., took root in Mexico under the administration of Álvaro Obregón. Its introduction was accompanied by a massive promotional campaign by the newspaper Excelsior. Initially, the conservative government sought to utilize the holiday to reinforce traditional roles for mothers within families. However, this perspective faced criticism from socialist factions who viewed it as promoting an unrealistic and limiting image of women, primarily confined to their roles as caregivers and reproducers. By the mid-1930s, the political landscape had shifted with the leftist government of Lázaro Cárdenas at the helm. Mother's Day underwent a transformation, being rebranded as a patriotic festival. Cárdenas's administration aimed to leverage the holiday as a vehicle for various societal initiatives. These included emphasizing the importance of families as the bedrock of national development, tapping into the deep-seated loyalty Mexicans held towards their mothers, introducing progressive morals to Mexican women, and diminishing the influence exerted by the church and conservative Catholic factions over women's lives. Government sponsorship extended to schools, intending to instill these values early on. However, despite the government's efforts, traditional religious themes persisted in public celebrations, leading to a blending of national celebrations with religious fiestas, contrary to the government's intentions. Soledad Orozco Garcia, the wife of President Manuel Ávila Camacho, played a pivotal role in popularizing Mother's Day during the 1940s. Her advocacy led to significant state-sponsored celebrations, notably the elaborate week-long festivities in 1942. This celebration also included a notable gesture, where women were allowed to reclaim their pawned sewing machines from the Monte de Piedad at no cost, symbolizing empowerment and economic support for women. Orozco's promotion of Mother's Day caught the attention of various political and social groups, including the Catholic National Synergist Union, UNS. Around 1941, members of the Party of the Mexican Revolution, now the Institutional Revolutionary Party, initiated a custom where women from humble backgrounds could select a free Mother's Day gift from participating shops. However, the UNS viewed this practice as promoting materialism and perpetuating the idleness of lower classes, further exacerbating societal inequalities. This perspective underscored a broader debate on modernization and social change occurring in Mexico during the 1940s, influenced by American models and sponsored by the state. Mother's Day, initially imported from the U.S., became a focal point for discussions on the imposition of capitalism and materialism in Mexican society. Amidst these debates, tensions between the government and religious institutions simmered. The UNS and clergy, particularly in the city of León, perceived the government's efforts to secularize the holiday and promote an active role for women in society as a threat. They interpreted the state-sponsored celebrations as an attempt to diminish traditional gender roles and erode the influence of the church. This led to countermeasures such as promoting alternative celebrations like the 210th celebration of the Virgin Mary in León, held concurrently with Orozco's Mother's Day festivities. Scholars generally agree that the Mexican government gradually abandoned its revolutionary initiatives during the 1940s, including its attempts to influence the narrative surrounding Mother's Day. Consequently, the holiday evolved into an unofficial celebration, observed annually on May 10th, the date of its first celebration in Mexico. Traditions associated with Mother's Day in Mexico include starting the day with the rendition of the famous song Las Mañanitas, either sung a cappella with the accompaniment of a mariachi band or a contracted trio. Families typically gather to honor mothers, sharing meals and spending quality time together as a gesture of appreciation and affection. If you enjoyed this feature, Feel free to tune in to Coffee and Headlines, our morning live broadcast for Puerto Vallarta English-speaking locals and for any other Anglophones looking to learn more about Mexico, our traditions and way of life. Thank you for watching, and thank you for sharing.
And that, who knew? Who knew? Are you surprised that the Catholic Church is meddling in other people's business in Mexico? I certainly am not. And that is a little bit of the history behind Mother's Day. I had no idea about most of that information. So thank you, Peta, for making that information available to us this morning. And now let's turn to your comments to see what you guys are up to. Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Luisa says, Happy Mother's Day. I love it. Lots of hellos. I saw your chat this morning, Claude, and the answer to your question is yes. Let's see what else. Betsy. Paco and friends, thank you for yet another wonderful evening of music appreciation. We had a fun time last night. Thank you for being there. Let's see what else we have. Doo-dee-doo-doo-doo. Oh, the music presentation was very funny yesterday. Paco loved it, says Michal. Well, it was supposed to be funny, and I'm glad that it turned out to be such. I didn't even have to show my belly button to make people laugh, and that is a good thing. Let's see what else we have. Ay, Angelica, you are so correct. Oh my, that church always has to put its nose in everything. Yes, they do. Let's see what. Oh, there's a queue. Wow, the church even has to involve itself with Mother's Day. Fear of women having a place in society, that's scary. Well, Claude, I have to say, I never cease to be surprised by how the church today continues to try to exert its power in Mexican culture, politics, and society. We are seeing it with that recent case of the bishop that was either abducted or was set up, etc., etc. Apparently, he had tried to be not the spokesman, but he had tried to negotiate among several cartel groups. It happens all the time, and it is unfortunate. And that, I think, yes, this brings us to the end of today's Coffee and Headlines. My goodness, that went by really quickly. And of course, the reason why I was going nuts early this morning is because I didn't anticipate that PETA would come up with such an interesting narrative. So I was like very quickly having to put that together for you. And I'm glad that it worked out okay. The rest of the day, of course, as usual, involves getting excited about new projects and working on things that are still pending here at Coffee and Headlines. But we will be back tomorrow morning for more news, more headlines, more fun, and more interesting stuff. Between now and then, have an amazing day, and I'll see you back tomorrow morning. Ciao.